Good morning. Buying a new camera can be extremely difficult. It's confusing. There are hundreds of options. How do you choose one over another? Well, in this video, I want you to learn, depending on your budget, which types of camera you can buy, which models may be a good fit for you. And I want to share with you the 3 most important questions I ask myself before I purchase a new camera in order to avoid a huge mistake. Honestly, watch this video until the end because it may save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars down the line. Now, let's thank PPA for sponsoring part of this camera buying guide, and let's get started. Alright, all the photos you just saw have been taken by myself. If you don't know me, my name is Pierre Lambert. I'm a travel adventure photographer, and over the past 10 years, I've had the chance to try different camera brands, different cameras in different circumstances, different models, different lenses, all around the world, whether it was underwater, in the mud, in the streets. So first and foremost, the 3 questions. The first question I ask myself all the time is, what will I do with this camera? Am I trying to replace my smartphone because I want a few better photos of my family and I'm going to use that during family events only? Or am I trying to get into street photography and use that camera every day? Am I trying to become a semi-professional? And if so, in which area? Is that going to be sports? Is that going to be wildlife? Is that going to be weddings? What will I use this camera for exactly? And there is no wrong answer. You could potentially say for kind of everything because I'm not sure. And that is fine, but just be honest with yourself and know where you want to go. Now, second question to ask yourself, if you already have a camera, what is limiting you currently with your camera? Because in most circumstances, I recommend people to change their lens first and foremost, and then change their camera body. If you have, for example, a camera with the 18 to 55 millimeter f3.5, 5.6 variable aperture lens, which is literally a kit lens that comes with so many cameras, you may want to buy a 50mm f1.8 first in order to get that creamy background blur and the bokeh that we're talking about, shallow depth of field, better low light performance without changing your camera body. The biggest visual impact on your photos does not come necessarily just from the camera, but it comes from the lens you're using on it. And once you know that, you can start playing with different lenses and see how drastic the impact is. From using a long lens to get compression to using an ultra wide lens, you will have a look that is very different even with your cheapest DSLR that you've had in the closet for 20 years. Last, third question, how much am I ready to invest? And have I already invested in my skills before my gear? Your skills are literally the one thing that will carry throughout your life until you pass from this human life. So before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on new gear, make sure you invest in those skills through photography workshops, photography clubs, travel expeditions with other photographers, or an online photography course like the 30-Day to Great Photos that I created. It's a step-by-step program to help you understand the world like a photographer, shoot in a way that you create images that have an impact and that you love. We're covering everything in details, and it has worked for thousands of students around the world. There is a link in the description where you can learn more. So now that this public service announcement is made, let's go into the different price ranges and the options you have. Under $500, small budget, how do you make it work? Good question. The first thing I recommend is going for the used market, okay? The second thing I recommend is not buying a camera at all and using your smartphone only. I've taken those kind of photos with my smartphones over the years, photos I absolutely love, and the smartphone wasn't really a limiting point. It was simply how I was shooting it and how I was using it. So please don't dismiss your smartphone. Now, I understand the user experience will be completely different, but if you're on a tight budget, maybe use what you already have in your pocket. On the used market, I've recently found just above $500 a Nikon D750 with a 50mm 1.8, which is a great combination. This camera is a DSLR, yes, it's not a hybrid, but you'll be able to really evolve as a photographer through that camera that was used by professionals and is still used. My wedding photographer shot my wedding with this camera. I was shooting wedding with this camera. And just because it's a few years old doesn't mean that the whole technology has been scrapped and you cannot take great photos anymore. This is a camera that has great dynamic range and you can find it for a good price. I'll actually link also in the description to the different camera options that you have different on the budget and to a video that I found extremely helpful, someone else's channel that takes those older cameras and uses them nowadays. And it may inspire you to tap back into those without investing in new gear. The marketing is strong for getting new gear, but please remember the good old professional cameras that are 5-10 years old are not to be dismissed. Last, under $500, if you want just for the fun of it, we have fun disposable cameras that you can use, or recently I discovered the Flashback 135 that I'm going to be testing very soon, but it's like a disposable camera. It takes 24 hours for you to see your photos, but it's digital and it gives you the same experience. And if you just want to have fun, honestly, and take photos of your family and stuff and not think about all the lenses and the aperture and everything, well, this may be a great choice. So check it out. Let me know what you think, if it's helpful or not. And now let's move on to the second budget, $500 to $1,000. What can you have for that price? Before I mention the used market, let's get something clear. APS-C versus full frame, what's the difference? Basically, the bigger your sensor, the better the quality of your image in low light. You're going to have an image with less noise, with richer colors, and also your depth of field will be reduced to bigger the sensor for the same aperture. Okay, so in that $500 to $1,000 range, well, here, let's start with the second hand again, because we found some Nikon Z6, the first hybrid Nikons, for less than $1,000, and also some A7 III. Those are models that you can use professionally, semi-professionally, and they work extremely well. It has great dynamic range, good low light, good autofocus. Don't dismiss it. When it comes to the new market, we have two cameras, the Canon R10 and the Canon R50. The R50 is more geared towards people who want to do video. The Canon R10 for me is great for photography because we have an electronic shutter and a mechanical shutter, which, if you're not familiar, when you're shooting just with electronic shutters on cameras, you can end up with banding in images depending on the sources of light and if they're conflicting with your shutter. So, in order to avoid that, we can use mechanical shutters, for example, on that Canon R10, which will save you in a lot of situations. Then in the Fuji world, we have the Fuji X-M5 that helps you actually get the film look. It gives you easy JPEG to work with. If you want something that's easy to use and that feels good because you don't want to retouch your photos, Fuji really tries to tap into the market and provide that look that you can get, for example, a film look on your photos directly in camera. And you have many different recipes that you can apply so that you don't have to go through your laptop to do post-processing. You can just get your photos on your phone. So the XM5 is an option. So now let's move to the category of $1,000 to $2,000 for those who are really becoming passionate about photography or want a second professional camera body. When you're investing that much money, make sure you're covered for your insurance in case you get your gear stolen. It has happened to a few friends over the years and some of them were not covered. And this is where PPA enters the game. PPA stands for Professional Photographers of America, and it's in the company that provides equipment coverage that protects your gear, whether it's stolen, damaged, or lost. And it goes beyond just replacing your camera. They also provide legal support, copyright protection, education, and even help with data recovery if your memory cards are compromised. Through PPA, you can get up to $15,000 of gear insurance, $50 flat deductible for equipment repairs, and $350 deductible for full replacements of equipment lost. Make sure if you have a drone that you add the drone policy, but please don't make the mistakes a few friends made of not having coverage for their gear and losing those thousands of dollars invested over the years. So if you want peace of mind, check out the link in the descriptions. New member get $25 off their subscription with the link below. I personally purchased that insurance myself before they were even a sponsor, and it really gave me that peace of mind to shoot in all conditions around the world without having to worry that I won't be able to replace my gear if something terrible happens. Now in this $1,000 to $2,000 category, we have the Nikon Z5 II full frame camera that is having its moment of fame because it seemed like a very well-rounded camera. I haven't had the chance to test it myself. There are a few tests available online you can check. Great autofocus, full frame, good dynamic range, which is everything you want in a camera nowadays. That was for Nikon. For Canon, we have the Canon R8 and the R6 Mark II that fits in that category, but the R8 is not stabilized. So if you need that stabilization, you will go towards the R6 Mark II, which will be a little more pricey. Both of them have great autofocus, good dynamic range, and are full frame cameras. I tested those fully on the field. You can watch that video later. I'll link it in the description. But on the Sony side, I would actually not recommend any of their full frames because they don't fit in that budget line. But the Sony A6700 6700 is a beast in APS-C. It has the autofocus of the A1 built in with AI autofocus and detection of subjects. It has a mechanical and electronic shutter. It has a viewfinder, is extremely compact, and I tested that camera also, so you can watch the full detailed review if you want. This is a camera that is absolutely loved by many because it provides everything the big and better cameras and the full frames provide, but in a small APS-C format. So don't dismiss the APS-C on that range, it's great. And speaking of APS-C, we also have the Fuji X100 Mark VI, which is extremely popular, again, because Fuji makes things very user-friendly, and for people who want to get photos straight in JPEG, it is a dream. Now that Fuji has a built-in lens that is not changeable, but the other cameras that I proposed before have it. So you can always swap lenses, but on that one, you're in the fixed lens. So if you want to keep it simple, this could be a good option. And then we have the Lumix S9, which is a full-frame camera in a small, tiny body, just like the S5 IIX. It has good autofocus, it has a lot of things for itself, but it has only an electronic shutter. So if you know you're gonna be shooting indoors or with lights that are flickering with LEDs, I would not recommend using that camera because you will have that problem of bending. Now, $2,000 to $3,000. This category may be for the semi-pro, the professional, or those really into photography because we're starting to spend a lot of money here. All these cameras are full frame, have the latest autofocus, are fast, reliable, and honestly, I don't think you will see night and day difference between these. The one thing you need to understand is that they're kind of all-rounders. They're great cameras for doing everything. Whether you want to do wildlife, shooting your family, or being in the streets, you are usually happy with them. Why do I love and recommend sometimes the Sony a7C II? Because it's a very compact format, which is like a A7 IV, but better because it has the AI autofocus, the auto detection, and I like it because it's a small travel compact camera. I will really not advise getting the A7 IV nowadays. Why? Because there is no AI autofocus with subject detection like there is on the Nikon Z6 III, the Panasonic, the A7C II. And to me, if you're buying something new, it's a little bit of a downside. Now, on the upside, it does have 2 memory cards, which if you go for A7C II, you will only have 1 memory card slot. So if you're going into professional photography and you need to have that constant backup on 2 memory cards, the A7C II may not be an option, maybe that A7 IV, or then you're moving in a different category. And this year, there may be a A7 V, which I would suggest waiting for it because the A7 IV has been around for too long and is not benefiting from the latest and greatest innovation in terms of camera technology. Now, the Nikon Z6 III is also a very good option, but it's a little bigger, and so is the Panasonic S1 II and S1 IIe. You can also look if you have secondhand professional cameras that come from the categories we're talking about in a second in this price range, which can also be a great option. I'll list a few more options in the description, so make sure you check that out. And moving on to the category that actually holds a lot of cameras, especially with Nikon and Sony, which is $3,000 to $4,500. Here, we're going for the professional cameras that are a little specialized. In the Panasonic world, we have the Lumix S1R2, which has higher resolution. We have the A7CR, great for landscape, studio, anyone who needs a lot of details in their photos because it has a 61 megapixel sensor. It builds in also a great autofocus with the AI technology, and the one downside is that the burst is fairly low. So you're capped, I think, at 10 images per second from the top of my head. And that, if you're trying to do sports or wildlife, this may be very limiting. Also, you're going to end up with a lot of huge files, and that's something that you need to consider when you're back at home. Do you want to work with huge files or not? The ergonomics of that cameras are great. So is it for the S1R2. And in terms of Canon, which also has great ergonomics, by the way, I have a Sony versus Canon video where you can watch. if you're not sure between those two brands. We have the R5 Mark II, although it's really at the limit of that $4,500. It could be in the other category. So depending on the promo, you may be seeing it's in one or the other. Those camera bodies will give you the same thing almost for each brand nowadays, honestly. So choose depending on the lenses you have, choose depending on your needs and the feel of the cameras and kind of the ecosystem of that brand. So for example, I love the Sonys because I can get small compact lenses. Canon, I like to shoot with Canon, but their lenses are much bigger. You see, there's a trade-off. Nikon, I used to shoot Nikon for many years as a professional. I loved it. I just never really changed my gear once I bought into Sony, honestly. Now, last category, over $4,500. We are extremely specialized and we're talking about the Canon R1 and Canon R3 camera bodies that are clearly professional, oriented towards sports, wildlife, portrait. Now, caveat, be careful, the size and the weight of those camera bodies can be pretty intense, so choose wisely and remember, you may not need a camera, maybe investing a little less maybe enough, and investing the rest in a trip, adventures around the world, your skills may be much more important. Then Sony, we have the Sony A1 II if you want to be able to do everything with 30 frames per second in RAW, with no blackouts, pre-capture modes, AI autofocus. It's the latest and greatest and builds in everything Sony has to offer. And if you're trying to go towards wildlife or you need an extremely high burst rate, go towards the Sony A9 III, a little cheaper, with 120 frames per second in RAW, same with pre-capture, AI autofocus, no blackouts, but the resolution of your images is a little smaller than the A1 II. The A1 II has a 50 megapixel sensor and this one is around 26 megapixels. And then there's another category that I want to mention, which is specialized camera for fun, or for the looks, or for the aesthetics, or for the fashion, or for the love of it, for just being passionate about it. Like the Fuji GFX 100 RF, which is a medium format camera, even bigger than the full frame sensor. And we have the Hasselblads also that have those medium format sensors, but we're talking high budgets here. And we also have the Leica that we all love, and the Sony Leica that hopefully maybe one day comes out, the RX1 R3, who knows? But those cameras, if you're looking at these, you know who you are and you know why you're getting it. So there's no need to expand more. It's not a camera that you can do everything with, but it's a camera that you buy for the experience and the looks and how it makes you feel, more so than what you can do with it. Now, would this surprise you? A few years back, my brother-in-law had a Canon 550D, one of those T3i or something. And he's like, oh, I think I need to change camera. It's not great enough. And I suggested him to buy a 50mm 1.8. His experience completely changed. He was like, wow, I'm able to get those like really cool portraits of the family with the bokeh and people look great, but now I'm too tight. What can I do? And then a year or two later, he invested in a Sigma 18 to 55 f1.8, so to have a little bit of a wider angle. And he loves it. He's been keeping the camera. He never thought about buying a new camera again since. Why? Because he's able to take those creamy bokeh looking photos with that small setup, and he loves it. And there's no need to upgrade the camera. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping for a new camera. And with everything you're saving, invest in your camera insurance through PPA. Invest in a photography workshop to meet like-minded photographers. Get out there on the field. Or if you're on a tight schedule, join my next online photography workshop starting soon. And last but not least, if you want to know how to set up your next camera, watch this video. If you want to understand how to use your autofocus to get sharp photos, watch this video. And remember, get out there, go shoot, try something different, try something new. Even with your old camera, have fun with it and take photos you love, is not relying on getting the latest and best. So